I have this strategy in life that I typically set expectations low, and basically that minimizes hopefully disappointments. And in some cases, I may be able to impress by exceeding expectations. Today, I won't be able to do it because I'm talking to Agah, and he is one of the nicest people that I know. Actually, he might be the nicest person. He is also a very successful business person. He runs Borusan Holding in Turkey. It's a huge conglomerate. And besides being a successful business, it also actively tries not to be an evil corporation. They, correct me if I'm wrong, but they own a philharmonic orchestra. They own it. They just don't just support it. They open up their headquarters every weekend to visitors so that they can come and see the artworks. So it becomes a public art space. And you can walk into Agah's office and see the work above his desk. They are involved with women's issues, both in business life and outside. So there are lots of things that we can talk about in his professional life. Together with the visionary chairman of that corporation, they really make an impact. And I'm sure that experience informs his collecting as well. But he also has his own personal interests. And we actually met through this interest. And my first question is, how did you get interested in video art?
Thank you. I mean, you already raised the expectation by saying the nicest person. You know, you know a lot of people. I mean, if you knew me and a few others, maybe that could be okay. But no, I just want to say something about this opening the office to the public. This is literally every square meter, including our chairman's office, my office. So we pack everything on Fridays, and then on like being sacked actually from business, and on Monday morning we restart again. But it improved. Two things happened. It improved the paperless company concept we have been pursuing in a great way, because nobody wants to pack so many things into cupboards and take them out again. Secondly, because at weekends we have to have security in our offices, we do debugging every 2 weeks. On Monday mornings, and there's a lot of cameras everywhere in my room, and this meant that I have to behave during the week as well. I mean, our security guys promised that they switch off the cameras during the weeks, but I can never be sure, right? I don't trust them. So anyway, it's great to be here talking to you. It's a really pleasure. So thanks for inviting me. I mean, in countries other than the Western world, the social issues are so big, and the political problems are even bigger, really. They go hand in hand, and it is almost impossible to keep away from that. And especially if you are a bit in the affluent part of the society, which you feel more responsible towards the society, and if you have a caring character, really you are overwhelmed with what is going on. And I am also, on top of that, a socially engaged person. I sit in the boards of many NGOs for many years. I spend about 10–15% of my total time on the social work, really, and I work extremely hard. That's on top of this, really. So it was inevitable for me to really be a part of that life. But my interest in collecting art was a separate journey for a long time, starting from mid-90s until 2008, end of 2008 actually, at a specific date. I was at an auction. I used to buy a lot of contemporary Turkish artwork, paintings mostly, but I was distancing myself from them continuously, because I didn't think that they were authentic enough, original enough eventually, and they were overpriced, and the second-hand market was a big bubble. So I felt totally disconnected to that, and I stopped in an auction. I went there, and I left the auction without it before it started. Then I didn't know what to do. I wanted to spend some time thinking about how to continue this journey. By the way, my wife sold all the works which we collected in the Turkish auctions, because I believe it didn't go. I mean, Me Too type of approach is not for me. I mean, a bit here, a bit there, etc. Then I came to realize that if I can extend my social engagement into the art world and combine it, harmonize it, it will be great for me, because this is me. And then I came to realize that there are very progressive galleries in Turkey, very good friends who have this, a few, not many unfortunately, who really can absorb art in a different way, like yourself. That's where when I met Haro. Haro is one of the two coaches for me over the years, mentors for me over the years. And I met maybe 30 to 40 Turkish artists, really, who are world class in the way they think and in the way they produce. And they all are extremely engaged with Turkish and international politics, and extremely critical, and extremely creatively critical about what is going on in our lives today. Then I said, this is it, this is for me. And luckily these artists produce a lot of video work, because I think the video is a great medium for expressing difficult concepts in a very dynamic and storytelling way. So that's why I fell in love with video. On top of this being socially engaged, everything I really come to see, it really hits me from the heart. So it was an obvious choice eventually.
I agree with you that video is the perfect medium to express some of those concerns about the social issues. Well, then let's jump to where we are now, to Loop. We have been coming here for a few years, I believe. And you also acquire works here.
Yes, from time to time.
Yes.
Because they show good works.
And you know, some of the works that I've seen at your home also showed up at the Venice Biennial, or you know, I think one of them won the Han Efkens award.
Yes.
So why do you come here?
Oh, I think Loop is, for me, it's more than a fair, definitely. It is a gathering of the industry. I mean, if there is something like a video art industry, the friends of video art is all here. So, I mean, this is a special environment. I think a journey in art, if you are engaged to it, is much more than the act of buying something, really. So the journey is much bigger than this, and every minute of the time I spent in Barcelona for Loop is in my mind. I can't forget it quite easily. So it is the whole environment Loop has created for all of us, and we are very thankful for that, really.
Yes, I don't see Loop, you know, as an like industrial fair. I always think about it as a friends and family gathering. Every year I come here, you know, I feel like, okay, I'm with people who have similar interests, and there's always a topic that I can talk about. And it could be quite different. It could be about, you know, the issues that video art might have, because we are concerned about the future of it, how we'll deal with the rights, so on and so forth. But it could also be, you know, a work that we have seen somewhere that, you know, completely, you know,
yes,
took us
actually, I don't. I mean, because I have this extremely focused approach. I mean, some of the faces here are kind enough to come and visit us in Istanbul. But my focus on my own artworks is very deep, in my opinion. I try to get 3 topics and put everything under that. One of them is power. I like the use of power, I mean, in the societies, social engineering of what is going on in the societies, use and abuse of power, really. The second one is about the reactions of minorities, especially, all the way from Kurdish people to transvestites to immigrants in Western societies. And the third is the women issues, because women issues in underdeveloped countries like us is huge, as you could imagine. Underage marriages, veil issues. So I try not to get out of that frame because this excites me. I find a lot of meaning in that. So when I come to Loop, it's not about getting a good work and buying something. Maybe there would be no works in the Loop presentations which will actually fit into that category. It's okay though, but I come to see, I saw so many good works yesterday. The ideas are changing. The use of technology is changing in video art, and to be exposed to that change is even good enough for me. That's what I wanted to share. It's not only the commercial side of it.
If I'm not mistaken, you started acquiring works by Turkish artists or
yes.
artists from Turkey, but then at some point you switched to international artists. How did you make that transition? Because some collectors don't make it.
Yes, I think it's that's right. I mean, first of all, you must be the confidence rises in yourself. That is for sure. And secondly, when you should be exposed to that. I mean, if you don't come to places like Loop, well, how are you gonna be exposed to new work? I collect not only video art also, but new media installations, objects, photography to an extent. I try to keep those to the Turkish artists, but in video art, I think my confidence level has risen, so that within that within those three headings, I would prefer it to be not nationalistic, but more global. But I liked it to be contemporary, and the topics, how the topics are being dealt with in the art by artists around the world. I mean, in Africa, North Africa, Middle East, Mediterranean.
When I actually see the works in your collection, I do feel like they belong together in a very nice way. The work from South America fits very well with the situation in Turkey, and you put it together with a work from Turkey, and it could have been made, in two studios next to each other, but it happens that they
I think that's my main effort, away. To be honest.
And now I want to come back to the question of, how do you show these things? I know how it is, but I would like to share that. First, at your home, where you have the capability of showing quite a few videos, but also your project, Why Not? Which, from the name, on, I love the idea.
If you call it a project, then you raise the expectations again. It's a very small place. No, actually, I mean, if you don't share things, I don't like doing things without sharing them. Especially the sharing concept in the new generations is a must. I mean, in our generation, it wasn't the case. Everything was private. I'm not talking about artwork. The philosophy of living better is sharing. Nobody's buying cars anymore. They prefer to share, the young generation. They don't care. My daughters, they don't care if they have a car or not, so long as they can get away with this in any way. So sharing is the name of the game in the future, and anybody who doesn't share will be left out. That is a number one rule for me, first of all. Secondly, I like to share, because otherwise, if I didn't like to share, I wouldn't acquire additional work. It is much better for me to be associated with institutions or collectors who are bigger than me. I feel privileged to be a part of that, rather than saying that, oh, I own this and it's only me who owns it. So it's a natural extension of sharing things in a humble way, I should say. I mean, if you overdo it, if you start selling the idea of overselling, this is not good. people are too clever enough whether you are overselling or not. So you have to do it in a natural way. And my natural way was actually when there was no room at home, I was thinking of doing something else. And I had an apartment nearby my home, which I bought for investment purposes. So I converted that into an art space. So it's all empty, but it's a 4-bedroom apartment, and I have a lot of projection rooms. So together, I mean, generally speaking, some friends have visited both of them here in Istanbul. But first they come to visit. I call this place Why Not? And they come to Why Not first, and then we go together to my home. And at the same time, I can show 36 video works combined together. So everywhere is TV monitors, projectors. So but of course, at home especially, I have a problem because when I am not in the mood or when there are no guests, all the TV monitors are switched off. And there's black TV screens everywhere. I think I must have more than 12 big TV screens in our living room. So my daughters accuse me of selling my soul to technology. But there we are. But when you turn them on, it's fantastic, really. I think this. I'm not sure about it's good for our health, living on this. But I mean, it becomes the whole house becomes live.
Yeah, good thing that we are not using the old monitors that.
Exactly. No, but when I switched from this contemporary paintings into this new media, especially video, I made a deal with my family, my wife and 2 daughters. They are both studying in USA right now, so they are not at home. But in those days they were, and they agreed to me without knowing what they were into. I said that until now we were living with some artwork, but from now on this is an art space, and we are guests in this art space. So there should be some rules, like there's no miniature, non-art pieces here and there, objects. Everything had to go. Because if you go to a gallery, everything is clinically empty and clean. That's what we have to do, and the only exception is their rooms now. But everywhere else, there's nothing else. But a few settees and a dining table and only TV monitors, effectively.
It does change your lifestyle, doesn't it? But I've always maintained that the advantage of having a video collection is that when you don't want to see them, you can always turn them off.
When you want to see them small, you can do that. When you want to see them very big, this is the best thing about video art.
Do you rotate the works?
Yes, I do actually. I do. I think every 6 months, maybe 30%. Depends on the speed of acquisitions, because you have to, and sometimes it's not so easy to catch up. So, but I like to rotate. There are some works which is impossible to. I mean, I don't want to change. It's too much of a hassle. So they stay in. I mean, not the video ones, but more installations. But the rest, I like.
Do you feel the technological hassle, or you feel like it's not a big deal? We can.
No, technology is a question mark. I'm not an extremely technology competent person. I'm surviving this technology journey in the world. I have a very good guy who was my driver, and I found this extra spark in his eyes, and he became this incredible technician about video art, probably #1 in Turkey now. So he helps me.
What a career move on his part. Oh, fantastic. Now, I'm also interested in your strategies as a collector in general, because an interest in video is one thing, but at some point, we strive to improve our collecting practice, and that takes time. And eventually, we start picking works that we really think that will matter in the future. You are also one of the founders of a very important organization in Turkey, Saha.
Which you are a member of as well.
Yes, I'm a member, and I'm very happy that you and few of other people that I greatly respect started it. Can you talk about it a little bit and what you get out of that experience?
No, I think Saha, I don't know whether you heard of Saha, some of you might be. It's a fantastic organization. It's only 4 years old, actually. We came to realize that this new generation of Turkish artists are becoming really international in a non-commercial way. They are more biennial type of artists rather than the frieze or Art Basel type of artists, really. And we came to realize that with a little bit of support, the exposure to the global scene in Documenta, in Sao Paulo Biennale, etc., will be significant. And I think the Persian community, Iranian community outside Iran, has done a great deal of support to the Iranian artists, and I think their position in the world now is much better because of this. So we said we could do the same thing, actually, because we have this great material of good artworks and good artists who wants to take that journey. They are committed to become international. They are not scared of anything. So with nine friends originally, we came together with small amount of money, some yearly commitment from individual members, and we have 4 corporate supporters as well. Now we have 75 members altogether. These are all people interested in art in Turkey. We asked them to commit themselves minimum 3 years, hopefully with a rotating future. And we generally raise around 700,000 euros per year to support this Turkish art, mostly the exposure to outside Turkey with production, mainly spending the money on production. But we have very strict rules because most of us are collectors, and so in order to have not to have some conflicts of interest and speculations, we never deal with artists at all. We say, for example, to Documenta, when Caroline Bagargiev was the curator, we said, if you take Turkish artists, we will support their production costs. And in the history of Documenta, there was only one Turkish artist in the 3 Documentas ago who was presented in Documenta. And this last one, there were 2 Turkish artists suddenly. And we covered but we were not involved in the choice of the artist, the curators. So we are repeating this in many ways. And also, for example, if there are some major institutions trying to buy a Turkish artist's work, I mean MoMA or I don't know, all the big names, and they're always short of money now, as you know, and so there's always a gap between what the galleries can go down to the artist price and they can afford. So we bridge that gap, for example, so long as they exhibit that work minimum 3 months in one of the shows. So exposure is the critical one. We support the education. We send 2 mid-career Turkish artists every year to Rijksakademie, for example. We have some associations with them. So I think we are doing a great job, and we have been recognized pretty well because it's a very subtle, quiet, but very consistent way of, again, there we don't oversell ourselves.
And there, because of all those engagements, you gain access to all the events and biennials, yes, and also to the artists as well, because they come back and they present what they have done. You do the artist studio visits, and yes. So it's a very privileged position to actually be supporting their work.
That's the great part of it, actually, because some of the members, okay, they are a part of the art scene, but they don't feel fully engaged in art. I mean, so in order to keep them happy, we make these trips. They went to Sao Paulo. We were in Frieze, New York, 2 weeks ago. And for example, in Frieze, there were 25 members. with us. We had 4 days of program in New York, so we visited artist studios and met Jeff Koons and Tom Sachs and Richard Prince and Julian Schnabel. I mean, it's difficult to buy. These are priceless moments for them. So and a lot of major collectors in New York as well. So I think it works both ways. Good for artists, good for the members, and we get a lot of pride out of it as well.
Yes, for growing as a collector, I think you have to be involved with these kind of initiatives. And the last thing that I want you to talk about is your involvement with the next Istanbul Biennial, which we are very excited about, because it also is a way of engagement with production of new work at a very high level, in my opinion.
Yes.
If you don't mind talking about it.
No, actually, Istanbul Biennial is supposed to be supported by the Turkish government, but every biennial they get worse. I mean, now at least they declare that they are not supporting. In the previous one, as you know, they took their support only 3 months to go to the biennial, and it was in a very difficult. The biennial management was in a very difficult position because their interest in contemporary art is almost zero. Actually, they may see it as a threat in the long term. Forget about being neutral. So any support from the Turkish society is welcomed, is necessary. And this time it was interesting because the biennial is. I hope you will be able to make it to Istanbul Biennial. I think this is gonna be an exceptional one, in my opinion. Again, it will be like a treasure hunt. There are top artists producing artwork for Istanbul, and to be sort of presented in 35 different parts of Istanbul. So it will be a treasure hunt in Istanbul, in hammams, in old garages, churches. It's going to be fantastic. The artist names are very top, and I also support. I mean, they came to all of us, and we, within our budgets and abilities, we try to support artworks, the production of artworks, and I supported one young German artist's work, which I hope will be fantastic. I haven't seen it, of course, yet, but.
And it's a moving image work.
Moving image work, yeah. It's going to be a 10-meter screen in an old rundown garage, car park in Istanbul. They will be showing it.
Yes, it's a new partnership model.
Yes.
To produce new works, and I'm quite interested in how it will develop. I'm sure this model will be used in many other occasions as well, because collectors also get something out of it, and a new work can be produced without using public money. Well, at this point, I think it's time to open up the floor for questions. If there are any.
It's not so much a question as a comment. First of all, Haro started by saying that Agah is perhaps the nicest person he knows. I have to say that I agree with him, but Haro himself is also one of the nicest persons I know.
He just makes me look bad.
No, not at all. And I'm saying that out of experience because I was fortunate enough to be chosen to show one of the works of my collection at Haros collector space in Istanbul in December. And we were invited to go there. I thought, I'll go a couple of days earlier, so I'll do some sightseeing, get to know Istanbul. Well, forget it. From the moment I landed until the moment we left, we were taken care of like kings and shown around Istanbul. I met an enormous amount of artists, collectors, and Agah was actually one of the first people I met. We went on a boat over the Bosporus. I wasn't quite sure I was going to make it, but we did in the end. And I saw the office, and we had a wonderful dinner, one of many that I had in Istanbul. And I'm saying all this to show that art and video art is paying its dividends by all the wonderful people that you meet, all the wonderful experiences that you have. Had I not been collecting, had I not been involved in art, I wouldn't have had all these experiences. Yes. And I think this is almost, at least to me, as important as what you actually do, the process of meeting people, of feeling that you're part of something a little bit bigger. Well, that's the comment I wanted to make.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this is so true, Hans. I mean, because if you think that video art doesn't have a secondary market, if you do this for economic reasons, it's going to be a terrible, terrible disappointment for us. So this is the dividend we are talking about. I am used to this having no economic returns, because when I was studying in England at the university, I had no money generally, but I had to drive cars because I liked cars, and I had to drive it for practical purposes. So I bought many cars, 200 pounds worth, 400 pounds worth. This is in 1980s. But I was not able to sell any of them. They all went, I was the last owner, generally speaking. They were so bad. So it went to the scrapyard after me. So I am used to getting something and not able to materializing it later. But artwork is different, of course, because you do this with passion. And I hope one day, I mean, nobody wants to lose money. I mean, this is not in the business of making money. We are not in the business of making money, but knowing that the value at least keeps, and it is there is a great comfort. But I have, at the moment, I mean, if you ask my opinion, I have doubts about it for the time being. So we must have some sort of changes in this art world, which I heard you discussed heavily yesterday, which will make video art a much more how do you say?
I think
collectible.
The critical point is how good the artwork is, and that will be judged over time. We can have a sense of the impact of the artwork today that it is produced today, but I think the true test has to be done over time when we look back. And I think in the past, when we look in the history, all the revolutionary masterpieces at the time probably were thought they were worthless, because they were so different from what everybody was used to at looking at and considering good art, going back to Impressionism. We know the very famous examples where they couldn't sell any paintings because they did not fit the expectations of that time. And in video art, I do believe that we are seeing the masterpieces of the future. So don't worry too much about the economic value. I think.
No, I am not worried, but that's the reality. No, what I want, just in one sentence, I mean, good art. I mean, there's no doubt the staying value is there and will be admired by the generations to come. But I think even average art for in other media has a secondary market, whereas average art in new media, especially video art, has no secondary market. That's what I meant. And good art, to pick good art is extremely difficult. So
yes, I would like to hear.
Well, Egbert Dommering from Amsterdam, thank you very much for telling us this very fruitful experiences in Turkey, and especially what you're doing with this production funds, because we're trying to do something like that in the Netherlands as well. And just a recommendation, if you choose the right design of video screens, then switching them off, you have a piece of minimal art.
Yes.
Switching it on, you're in the future. But this is just a recommendation. But I have another question. You hinted at the political situation and the changes in Turkey. And I would be very much interested if you could elaborate a little bit more on that aspect of the art situation in Turkey today.
Wow.
Well, we have elections in
yes.
how many days? 3 days?
Can I call you on Sunday afternoon? Because I'll know the results. I don't want to embarrass myself by making a huge wrong choice.
And this
judgment.
is being recorded, so.
Yes, yes. No, I think maybe even the Western societies in the 16th, 17th centuries have gone through the same issues, but in this century, except the Western world, all societies are continuously engineering, being socially engineered and re-engineered again. And Turkey is a great showcase for that. After the Ottoman Empire has collapsed, there was this new republic, and it had to be engineered with Western standards and Western vision. And the founder of the republic, Atatürk, has done it with a huge vision and great passion, without an individual desire for himself, really. It wasn't the case. And people like us, the modernist secular Turks, still admire that. But it had been done on a slippery ground. So we came to realize how slippery it is over time when the original original model didn't work so well, and had been abused by terrible leaders, corrupt leaders, and incompetent leaders. There had to be a new pressure releaser from the society, and that became religion, unfortunately. Religiously oriented, how do you say, political understanding and political use of religion has been very much used in the last 15 years and had been very popular in Turkey. No doubt that this part of the society is made up of 50% of the total, makes 50% of the population. But just like anywhere else in the world in history, power corrupts, and the people in power started to go crazy. It's like, I guess, going up in the mountains, and the more you go up in the ladder, the less oxygen you have, and you cannot decide properly anymore. And you go crazy, you do crazy things. And I think we are at that stage at the moment, that how could they do these things? It's unbelievable. We live in a daily basis, no, this can't happen. Not this much, this is too much. And it happens, and the next day something more happens even. I mean, so we have lost reference points for realities in Turkey. But I think Turkey is a great country. The people are very wise, interestingly, innocently wise, I feel. And we like to find pragmatically something in the between. I think the previous system was not working as well. Just accepting one fits all for a large society, 75 million, is impossible to manage. So we have to manage to live together, and acceptance is the number one rule. You have to accept that you are not alone, and there are the color of others, their thoughts are essential part of that. But also, just final words, we shouldn't forget that Turkey is made up of two societies, literally, actually, maybe 15, 20 million Mediterraneans, maybe Spanish, Greek, Italian, a bit of Italian, Mediterraneans, with our food, with our way of family lives, with our ambitions, with hardworking professionals, and 50, 55 million, the remaining Middle Easterns. And we are trying to create a country without autocratic regime to live together and prosper together, which is hugely difficult. We hit the walls running on the corridor quite often, and we are one of the cornerstones of that.
So the present biennial this year comes at a key moment.
Yes, I think so.
I think this is the right direction.
Yes.
If you look what she did in the document.
We are
Yes.
very excited about it, and yes, that's what I was going to recommend. To understand the situation there, you should watch the video artwork that comes out of Turkey, and it paints a pretty good picture. So as Agah was saying, it's video is a very strong mirror of what's happening today. Well, I think if we have time, sure.
Okay, just one question. You seem to focus very much on social issues in your collection. Now, the access to the collection and to the artwork seems to be very exclusive. Do you think this is something for Turkish society which could be important, that you show that to a greater public? Because I think that might be something you plan in the future, or do you already do that?
No, you just hit this point very well, actually. I have another very good friend with Haro, whom I admire his artistic vision. And the three of us together, our collections, a sample from our collections, are going to be exhibited in this art platform. Maybe you know SALT. SALT is by far the most cutting edge and most sophisticated platform in Istanbul, run by Vasif Kortun, who is a globally appreciated curator. So we are extremely privileged that the first taste of what we have collected together, and the idea behind that was actually it was on collecting rather than the artworks. I mean, how could collectors buy works whom others think is this artwork, or I question artwork, or would never dream of buying as another collector? Why do they buy it? What is behind that? And collectively, what does this mean to the public? So we have a 2-month collection presentation starting this Tuesday. We will have another session together with Haro Istanbul. So it will be, I guess it will be fantastic, because it will raise a lot of questions in the minds of people. Luckily, I have some works which are not exhibited, because I was scared that we will be in trouble in the Turkish context. But I convinced them not to present it. At least I cannot say it in front of cameras, in case we come from a country with huge censorship. So I have to be careful.
Well, on that note, Agah, thank you very much. We'll continue this discussion next week.
Yes.
If you come and join us, we would be very happy in Istanbul. But I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you.